All right. So thank you all once again for taking the time this afternoon to help me out with this project. We're going to be talking about emotional intelligence and also just a little bit of the structure of my class and kind of the way that we'll be going through our class today. So this isn't working. There it is. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is a learning needs and resources assessment. Now this is part of the structural design of our course, which we'll get into later. I sent this to you in an email, and we're going to take a look at the results that you all submitted over the course of the last couple days. So we have 14 responses here, which is awesome. So the first question we took a look at was, please select a response that reflects your level of exposure to emotional intelligence. So in a learning needs and resources assessment, the aim of this tool is to provide a starting point to tailor your course material to your learning audience. What we're going to get into in just a moment is that in adult dialogue learning, which is the huge subject of my course, it's really important that the instructor is in tune with where their students are at, and the students are actively involved in how learning takes shape. And so a learning needs resource assessment is the first step in kind of setting that tone. So as we can see, most of us have just a little bit of exposure to this topic and are excited to learn more, or we couldn't say much about it. Those are two really great starting points for where we're going to be getting into, because we will have a section where we kind of start from where we're at in terms of our current knowledge. This gives us an idea of a concept that we're going to dive into. These are the four components that make up emotional intelligence, which we'll get into more. But as you can see, it looks like we've got 4 people that consider their self-awareness very high, maybe 5 people that consider social awareness high also. Average is relationship management, and then self-management is also where we have our lowest, very high and even below average. So it may be that self-management here is where, as a group, we have the most to grow, the most room for growth, which is great. Whoopsie. All right. So several of you responded how you think emotional intelligence is going to be useful in a work setting like ECOS. We're going to come back to this question later on and revisit it. But this provides an opportunity to kind of get your minds turning a little bit so that we're not starting completely fresh as we start here. And your preferred learning style, classic outdoor educators, well hands-on learners. No surprise there. We are going to try and infuse our discussion with as much kind of talking and making as much of an interactive activity as possible throughout our learning today. And only one of you responded with, "You're my boss, I feel pressured into this meeting." And I still don't believe that, but thanks anyway. So, let's get back to our presentation here. So again, that provides our starting point for where we're going to dive into the material today. And again, I do want to kind of provide the structure and the outline of our course design for you all, because that's part of what you're going to be evaluating me on at the end of the session. So, moving on, another key aspect, I think we skipped. Nope. Okay, so another key aspect of what we're going to be doing today is a learning task. And a learning task is a question that is posed to a small group to learn through discussion. And that's really the crux of what the majority of our time is going to be spent on together. So our question that we're posing to the small group is, what is emotional intelligence and what implications does it offer for personal and organizational growth? So that is the question of the day. So we are going to start with, and I know we are missing some slides here. Wasn't going back on. So I want to revisit here. My clicker wasn't working earlier, so it threw me off. So course guidelines. I do want to dive into a few of these. The subject of my course that I'm currently in is adult dialogue learning, leadership for a learning environment, and a lot of that focuses around a gal named Jane Vella. She's done a lot of research into teaching adults in undergrad, master's, PhD levels. She has come up with a very thorough structure of how to design course material. And so what we're going to be focusing on is we looked at the learning needs resource assessment, and we're also going to be looking into the 4 stages of a learning task. Inductive, input, implementation, and integration. Those are going to be the 4 steps that we're going to use to kind of move through the material today. She also lays out principles that should be embodied by an instructor, and these are things that may come naturally to others, but certainly practices that can be learned, and you can grow in those skills as well. So we're going to be trying to maintain as many of these 12 principles by the way that we interact throughout the course of today. And we're not going to get into evaluation today, just because we only have one course, and I don't want to give you guys a test. We will talk a little bit about the transfer of our knowledge into our work setting. So another focus of my study is Wodkowski's, motivation for learning for adults. There's basically 4 areas that we are going to try and emphasize today. And hang with me, guys, this is the most I'm going to lecture for this whole time. So the 4 dynamics that he says you need to hold in tension in order to keep adult learners motivated is establishing inclusion, developing attitude, enhancing meaning, and engendering competence. So essentially, those 4 things are what really keep us engaged as a group, both from an instructor's perspective and a learner's perspective. And hopefully, again, without diving into too much of those details, we're going to embody that by the way we go through our learning today. So boiling that down into just some more practical expectations for our class today, I want to make sure that we're using focused intermittent group discussion. That's going to be really the source of our learning. We're going to talk a little bit, and then we're going to discuss what we learned, and then I'll talk a little bit, introduce some new ideas, and then we'll discuss. The idea being that our learning is going to really come from your insight, your expertise, taking the information that we see here and then applying it to our own learning. So we want to value authenticity, diversity, and contribution. As in any group discussion environment, it's so important that we are receptive of whatever one another have to say. At the same time, we need to hold each other accountable to the things that we do say, and we always want to maintain a level of genuineness, but also respect. Okay, moving forward with confidence and caution, I would say. You ask your questions, I'll ask mine. I've got questions already set up for you guys. Please, please, please ask questions. This whole session is really going to depend on how much you all are engaged. So no question is off limits. Fire away, break down what I'm saying, and we'll work through it together and hopefully come to a good conclusion of learning by the end of the time together. Finally, a key concept of what I want to see happen today is in adult dialogue learning, the instructor needs to move from a position of being a sage on the stage to a guide on the side. And that's kind of a mantra that you guys may have heard of, especially in the work that we do. But I'm not the one with all the answers. You all know that firsthand. But more so, I'm going to be a guide to move us through the material, nothing more than that. And we're going to learn together. I'm as much a part of the learning process as you all are. All right, so now we're digging in to our material on emotional intelligence. So this is our first stage of the learning task, and this is where we're going to start having you all dive into the material. What I would like you to do is with your groups, and we're going to go group 1 here on the right and group 2 here on the left. Grab a piece of paper, have someone take notes. What I would like us to do is brainstorm with your group to establish your own working definition of what emotional intelligence means to you. Here are some questions to help kind of prompt your thought. But again, this is inductive work. Take whatever ideas you have. Let's brainstorm together, and we're going to come up with a working definition for both groups, and we'll input them in just a minute. So let's shoot for no more than 5 minutes, and I'll bring you all back together sometime in between 4 and 5 minutes.
Okay.
Any questions about that?
I feel like emotional intelligence isn't black and white, it's a lot more subjective.
What do you guys think?
Do it means that you're very sympathetic and
What do you
you're
mean by
good
that?
at like
I feel like you're very
There's not really
yeah,
one
you're
way.
aware of people's emotions
And
and
your own.
how different words can affect different people.
Well, the people have it more than others. Like,
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah.
maybe like
And you like care about how other people feel in situations.
Yeah.
So 90% like
I
she
mean,
knows
it's about to care, you just have to know, yeah.
I feel like you can be like
Knowing
it's like
yourself,
consider emotions
yeah,
yourself.
social.
like you know like
I feel like
You just have to be able to
partially
read it.
being able to read like how others are feeling, very like being aware to that, but also like understanding why they feel that way, and maybe like how that can change.
How,
So like when I think of it like for kids, I think about emotional intelligence being a really big part of like kids that pregnancy and home. Like why do they feel this way? What is it about home that they miss? And then how do we get that to kids from like if my kids just miss watching television, like I understand their families, like I can't provide for their families, but I can talk about like their friends and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So like what they feel.
I feel like you have to be able to
adding to that, like
see,
understanding your own emotions and how your
I don't know how
projected
to
emotions can
word it, but
affect
you can't really
things like what you said.
because other people have to be able to figure out
someone that's very
Yeah,
what you're
understand
feeling.
what
Too.
yeah,
According
and to be able to understand
they,
people's like
if you're just
motivations
not
behind
showing
why they
anything,
do what they do.
they're gonna be confused.
I don't know how to word that, but
Understanding other people's motivations.
I think we just need to get one deeper
You don't understand that if somebody
Like,
says something, they actually need something else. Is that what you're trying to say?
maybe or like
Understanding our
this guy
emotions,
is like
others'
acting out,
emotions,
but
and your
it's
relationship
because,
between the
for
emotions.
example, like the learn for like kids, like they acted out at first because they don't know how to like receive.
So,
What did you say? Like,
Understanding
So
your emotions,
see-
others' emotions, and the relationship between
past the
those emotions.
surface, like
into the
Intellectual. A deep sea diver.
That's gonna be our definition. Yeah.
Interesting.
We also should
okay.
Are we
I
just kind of just simplistic?
I got another question.
Yeah.
Do you think? Yeah.
What?
Do you nothing I can say? Yeah. Okay, so I'm wondering if you're emotionally
IQ is
intelligent,
a lot to it.
does that also mean that you control over your own emotions, or are you just aware of
There's a
them?
lot
I
of
think you're just aware.
It
I
doesn't
don't think you're
necessarily
like
control
that
them.
doesn't mean you're very good at controlling them.
So.
Emotional intelligence is one of them. IQ doesn't have
Sorry.
You always smell like very strange. Sarah's feet.
There are worse things you can say.
There are
I
guys.
mean, part of the concept of IQ is it doesn't change throughout your life.
Okay.
How are we doing? What do you guys need?
Emotional intelligence
Do you want us to have like a
Certain.
sentence definition?
Yeah,
or
I
should we
we're
have more
gonna
like
put it
a
in.
bullet?
Yeah, you can provide this is fine.
Okay.
Okay, what do we have?
So just like
Yeah.
words of others.
How we doing? We got something to work with?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so I